Hey there, and welcome into Main Street Living. I'm Danielle Alvari.
I'm Cheryl Nelson, and we are missing Quincy Carr today. It's the ladies' show.
It's always a good thing, though. Quincy's usually working on good things and always being creative, coming up with something else to work on. So he is hard at work somewhere else, but we'll have him back next week. And honestly, this is the time of year that I think that Miss Cheryl would also usually be gone because you're such a travel bug.
I know I've got some trips coming up, so I'm excited here and there. And when I travel, it's funny. I love to travel, but I don't like to be around huge crowds of people. And I
Mm.
know in the whole COVID world, I'm sure a lot of people don't like to be around big crowds of people either. But what about you, Danielle? When you travel, do you like to go to the touristy spots or kind of explore and go off the beaten path a little bit?
I feel like in general, when we talk about that too, I even just think of friends who've gone to Italy and they say, well, you have to see Rome, but it's really touristy. And it feels like that, right? When we go to the touristy areas, well, you have to see it, but it's actually worth seeing. It's just that it's not necessarily as fun when it's really crowded. I remember when I went to New York and I saw the Statue of Liberty, it was pouring rain. It was warm rain, at least, if that makes sense. But I went and there was nobody there. And there was something really beautiful about that. So I do like to see the touristy things. I'd like to do it with less people around. So maybe I guess go in the rain. What about you, Cheryl?
Yeah, I the same thing. I want to kind of check the boxes and see things like the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. That was
Mhm.
really cool, but I went at night and it wasn't crowded. So
Yeah.
just like you, I want to avoid the crowds, but still check off those spots and then see some of the stuff behind the scenes too.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of dig into a little bit more of the behind the scenes stuff in areas for sure. So we're going to do that today. Great show coming up. We're going to get to learn how to make a cocktail with one of our friends from Seven Cave Spirits. We're going to learn how to make a really delicious New England style snack and also stay fit with some disc golf.
We'll also show you a side of Las Vegas you might have never seen before, but first, we'll discuss the power of a story with an award winning author and journalist. Stay with us on Main Street Living. Welcome back to Main Street Living. Danielle, we all love a good story, right? And not only is a well crafted story entertaining, but stories are also one of the most effective ways to get people to remember what you're telling them.
Yes, and our next guest has spent a career telling stories and is here to share some with us today. So please welcome award winning journalist and author John Gliona. John, welcome to Main Street Living.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Hi,
So
good. How are
good.
you?
Thanks for having me.
So, John, remarkable career as a journalist, writing for the Los Angeles Times as both a national and foreign correspondent for 26 years. And one of the favorite quips that you'll hear about journalism is that it's like a front row seat to life. Is that what it was like for you?
It was. If you imagine life as a major screen in a movie theater, a lot of the performances you get to go to as a journalist, you really don't want to go to. School shootings, random massacres, stuff. But most of the job is pure, unadulterated freedom and joy. It's a great thing to be able to tell your editor that, I got to be in Bali next week. There's some things going on, as I was able to say when I was based in South Korea. But another thing they say about journalists is that they're always the ones running toward the fire. But I would say the bad days are outnumbered by the good days, probably 25-1. So we'll take the bad with the good.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of pros and cons that come with it, but I think a pro is that you did get to travel the globe. What have been some of the most memorable stories and interesting stories that you've covered?
Oh gosh. Well, a lot of it involves, I mean, sometimes, terrible things happen in the world, earthquakes and tsunamis. I was in
Mhm.
Sri Lanka after a 2006 tsunami, traveled with a bunch of doctors
Mm.
from Los
Ugh.
Angeles. I was in, I spent several months in Japan after the 2011 tsunami and earthquake and tsunami. I was in Pakistan after Benazir Bhutto was shot, and I did a story about
Mm.
being on the trail with a with a politician in enemy territory when I mean it's not safe here, but it's definitely dangerous there to be on the campaign trail. I covered Kim Jong-il's death.
Ah.
A lot of the stuff I did was just parachuting into places for interesting stories that I kind of found and went and reported. And so, very briefly, in my time in Asia, I covered North Korea, South Korea, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, the Philippines, Indonesia,
Mm.
Singapore, Malaysia, and the Pacific Islands. And I used to brag to my wife that I said, honey, I covered 1/4 of the world's water mass. And she said, that's fine, dear. What are you making for dinner? So
Leave it to the wife
Priorities.
to
yeah,
say something like
exactly,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
I like it. She had priorities. I like that. And we know
yeah, yep,
that
she
you
did.
had some maybe different priorities at some point as well, because you left the Los Angeles Times in that 2015. Why did you decide to take a different path?
Well, in 2015, at the time, the LA Times was going through some sort of ownership woes. And at the time, the company that called itself Trunk, strangest name for a company I've ever heard of, really, decided that they really wanted to offer buyouts to people with a lot of experience so they could hire a younger generation. And I get that, it happens in every industry. So that day, in I think it was Thanksgiving 2015, I think it was like 75 people left with a cumulative 1,000 years of experience. And the deal that was offered to me was, since I'd been there so long, if you go on Thanksgiving of 2015, we'll pay you for the entire year of 2016. So I figured that was a pretty good parachute, and I could reinvent myself and have my Times paycheck to sort of buttress me. So that's what I did. I started freelancing and traveling, and I was just doing it. I was doing it for myself now versus the impromptu of a big newspaper.
That's the way to do it. That's pretty
If you can
incredible
do
right
it,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah. And you've been obviously writing a long time as a journalist, and you're an author as well. You've written some books. Tell us about your latest book called Outback Nevada: Real Stories from the Silver State. Why did you decide to write these stories?
well. The book is a collection of stories that I had worked on as a journalist, and I had when came back from Asia, I became the sort of a Western bureau chief for the Western United States, based in Las Vegas. And I remember saying to my editor, how much time do I got to spend in Vegas? Because I didn't really want to be the casino reporter, because Angelino, Sea Vegas, is that quaint little party town down the road, and I didn't really want to write about winnings, and this. So I wanted to get out there and talk to real folks. So he said, "Well, you'll figure that out." So I spent a lot of time in Nevada and spent a lot of time in the rural West, and they were I found just so many interesting places that I yearned to be out there when I wasn't there. So after I left, some of the stories in this collection are from the Times, and some of them are some freelance clients like the Review Journal, which is the morning newspaper in Vegas. So an editor at the University of Nevada Press, they came up with an idea. Why don't we just like showcase your work? It's sort of like an aging rock band, me, coming up with a greatest hits album. You don't have to produce any new stuff, although I did a lot. I actually edited a lot of these and wrote a prologue and an epilogue, but a lot of the work was done before the book was published. So I had, many books are written from scratch, and which is what I'm doing now. We can talk about that. But these stories were already produced, so it was kind of fun just to shape them into a package.
Wow.
Well, John, I mean, as you can see, they're greatest hits for a reason, first of all.
Yeah,
So we need
thanks.
to hear the greatest hits again.
Yeah.
We want to hear more about your book, but we need to take a quick break. Can you stick with us and tell us
I
more about
will.
your
I
book in our
will.
next
I
segment?
will. Thank
Okay,
you.
All right.
look forward to that with John Gliona. Welcome back into Main Street Living. We are here with award-winning journalist and author John Gliona talking about his new book. Your book, Outback Nevada: Real Stories from the Silver State, is a collection of stories about people and places you've encountered in Nevada. Do you think the people in Nevada are unique, or was that just the place where you were paying attention?
Oh yeah, they're definitely unique. A friend of mine asked me once, so what do people in, rural Nevada think about Reno and the people in Reno and Vegas? I said, they don't think about you guys very much. Life is where you live it, and there are people who lead lives that are more different than ours, but that doesn't mean that they don't have their Shakespearean tragedy and Saturday Night Live comedy. And people are just, they adapt to their circumstances. And a small town. I have a joke with my wife, and we'll drive through some god awful small town someplace. I'll say, honey, let's move out here. And she just kind of look at me. And so I did spend a lot of time in those places. She never came, but it was just like opening up an unpolished diamond for me.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds so cool. I love diving in and exploring the unknown. So, can you tell us some of your favorite stories?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I used to tell an editor of mine at the LA Times that my stories are like my children, and you
Oh,
can't love one more than the other. But there's some that worked out, and some that were more fun, and some. Uh, I once had a party at my house in Vegas, and the LA Times has a thing called the Column One, which is basically a narrative writing showcase on page one. So I had a party at Thanksgiving, and there were 5 people I'd written about at the party. So there was, I've made some friends along the way. But one of my favorite stories was a piece. It's the first one in the book, and it's entitled "Flash and Mr. Cool," and it's basically about 2 guys in their 60s, and they were the DJs in a small town radio station without much reach. One of them was one of the founders of Burning Man, and the second one was a developmentally disabled man who became his friend, who always wanted to be a radio DJ, and so he was Mr. Cool. And so what just hanging out with them for one of their radio broadcasts was just a lovely thing. Mr. Cool's mom had passed away, and so Flash, Michael Hopkins, had actually adopted him, legally, and so they lived in the town. So Dad was probably younger than the son, but they had just a great relationship, and that's the kind of that's the kind of people you meet out there. I think one of the excerpts I'll read to you in a moment is by a woman who runs a bar called the Long Branch Saloon in Crystal near a defunct brothel. Her name is Miss Kathy, and Miss Kathy she's a tough lady, and I just liked her, her back and forth with customers. Everybody pays respect to her. I've gone out with guys who go into old mines looking for not gold but denim, because little do we know that denim really is, there's a fantastic wealth to old, denim was actually was pioneered by a tailor in Reno to outfit all these, prospectors and gold seekers coming out to the West. They needed good clothes to go out there. So, that with the bolts and the jeans and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of these things are discarded in these mines, and they're still there. So I went out with some of these guys looking for that. I profiled, a priest in Laughlin who gives Sunday morning mass inside a casino, just because that's where people will go on a Sunday morning. So, wherever God wants him to go, that's where he goes. In this case, it's a casino. I could go on. I mean, I profiled a woman, I call her Lethal Letha, and she was the most prolific mountain lion huntress in northern Nevada. And she would, and now in California, I got a lot of letters on this one because, people in LA were saying, oh my God, how can you kill these wonderful creatures? Well, they are huntable at certain times of the year, and she skins them in her kitchen. And so that's where I sort of led my story. And I didn't realize how controversial it would be, considering who my audience was. And I guess one of my favorite stories was a piece about two elderly women who were both in their mid 90s, who had been friends for 75 years, longer than many of us have been on the planet. And they were 2 pioneering women who lived in rural Nevada, who outlived their husbands. And every few weeks they got together. And it was just a lovely story of enduring friendship. So most of it, are just sort of like, I go out looking for subcultures and cool people. And when I find them, and I just like to hang out, and that's, and I keep writing my notebook, and that's where these stories come from.
Wow, you've got a lot to share there. So
I
many
mean,
good stories.
yeah, each of these sounds like it could be like its own reality show or its own
Yeah, no, it
sitcom.
could be
These
a
are
reality show, definitely. But with a
Mhm.
face like this, I'm no host, girls.
Yeah.
Oh, stop.
Yeah,
Well, but and I think it's funny because I think as a culture, we've bought into the reality TV show or the TikTok where we want to see what people are doing in their daily lives. And
right.
what's really cool about journalism, though, is I think you take away that trying to create conflict part that a lot of the
Yeah,
producers will do for those TV
yeah,
shows.
yeah, 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 exactly.
And you guys tell it like it is. So I love those human interest stories that are just pure like that. Could you read us a little bit from your book?
Yeah, sure. I will read you just a few paragraphs about, in the prologue of the book about, for the reader first picking it up, it's like, well, what is this book about? So I'm writing about like this adventure we're about to take. So the prologue, which I call the There Out There, it begins. Many people, mostly tourists, but also urban Nevadans, seem bewildered by the concept of taking that unsung drive between Las Vegas and Reno, or exploring any of the state's hinterlands like it was some crazy rocket launch into the void of outer space. What's out there, they ask? Just a bunch of nothingness? The question has always baffled me. It's not nothingness, I say, but somethingness. Because out there is where the real Nevada lies. Whenever I grow weary of the noise of my Las Vegas life, when my suburban neighbors begin to grate and I itch for infinite vistas and endless two-lane straightaways, I point my car northward towards Nevada's untamed outback, towards Beatty and Goldfield, Tonopah, Pioche, and the Big Smoky Valley, Austin, Middlegate Station, and Gerlach, Carver, Jackpot, and the countless points in between. I drive when I want to see wild Mustangs and burros grazed on the leather-colored landscape just off the highway tarmac. I drive when I want to gaze up at night skies so profoundly black I can see the glowing Milky Way and imagine just how far away heaven might be. I drive when I want to follow the swirling dust clouds kicked up by a country boy inside a pickup truck, gleefully barreling down some anonymous dirt road, carving out his own freewheeling rite of passage, a young man leaving a trail of smoke and grit to rival any jet engine, one that might be seen from the moon for all I know. When doing journalism or just for thrills, I drive when I want to see, hear, and feel rural Nevada, the real Nevada, that country-hearted salve for my curious big city soul.
John, I want you on Audible. I want to listen to this.
You have a way with words. It just
Thank you.
paints this beautiful picture there. Where can our viewers go to get your latest book and learn more about you?
Well, johngliona.com is my website. I blog there frequently. I'm writing another book now from the ground up about a rural town in Nevada on the Oregon border. So I'm blogging less, but johngliona.com, it has the full body of my work. It's a pretty substantial site, and you can go on, and all the countries I've written from the world and the states are all divided. So you can go here and there. And the book, Outback Nevada, is available from the University of Nevada Press and from, and obviously Amazon.
Oh, all right, John.
Cool.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. We really
Can I come
appreciate
back?
it.
You guys are fun. I want to hang out some more.
Oh, we'd love that. Yes. Oh, you're the best. All right. Well, guys, don't go anywhere. We've been talking about Nevada, Danielle, and we're going to stay in Nevada. Coming up, we're going to explore a unique side of Las Vegas that you might never have seen. Stay with us.
Welcome back into Main Street Living. Cheryl, as you know, as I know, local artists add much more than just pretty pictures to their communities. Art can also help a community form a common identity or honor their history.
Yeah, that's right. And artists often have a true passion for making their own communities better and stronger through their artwork. Shannon Dorn is doing just that with her documentary 702 Unstripped, about the little known history of the art scene in Las Vegas. Check it out.
702 Unstripped is a documentary film about the birth of the Las Vegas art scene and how it was influenced by hip-hop culture.
This documentary is a compilation of the experiences that Shannon witnessed within the growth of the city.
Born and raised in Vegas, with a camera, why else would I be there? So that's why I felt like the documentary was really important part of my story and my life.
From 99 until now, I was not just witnessing it, I was a part of helping this turn into what it needed to be.
The documentary features a lot of diverse people, from artists, painters, to dancers.
She has an eye for capturing people's essence and the things that people are breathing life into the community, and I think that she just was doing that intuitively.
Hip hop played a major part in a lot of the culture you see here, especially the murals, because a lot of the murals are graffiti based, done with spray paint. So that's one of the main elements of hip hop. There's a lot of b-boy culture here, and that went on to the Strip with the Jabberwocky.
They wanted to ban hip hop in Las Vegas. Who started First Friday, right? A lot of people think that Tony Hsieh did.
There is this integration of music and dance and art and performance, and that rather than there being this competitive separation, there is a desire to help each other grow.
When tourists do come to Vegas, they don't think of Vegas as a art city, but when you start going downtown, there's a lot of talent, and the world needs to see it.
Alexander P. Huerta was funny and smart and talented and loving and so grounded in his own truth.
Alex is that mentor for so many people in the Arts District.
That man's echo and ripple is, I guarantee you, it is still touching people, because I know it's still touching me.
And really showed us how to live our dreams.
This is just one story of the many that are interwoven in this beautiful documentary. And Las Vegas is rich with art and culture. And not only is it rich, it has been.
People are going to take this experience home with them. So they're going to go back to wherever they came from and say, wow, you didn't know this was going on in Vegas, huh?
I would love for the world to see that culture does exist in Vegas, and just expose the talent, expose the art, expose the underground side of Vegas that people haven't seen.
Let's put the flashlight on Vegas. Let people know that we're here and we got some badass art.
Oh, Cheryl, I have to tell you, in my time living in Las Vegas, I'm glad that they made this documentary, because I don't think that people think of Vegas in this way. And I was so surprised when I lived there to find that kind of art scene down there. That was one of my favorite places to hang out. You could just kind of go around all the different nooks and crannies and discover so much. And they've really done a lot to make it a nice area for people to go and explore a lot of very cool things down there.
It's really cool. And those murals, to do artwork like that, that's amazing. So cool to see, Danielle. And speaking of amazing, we're going to mix up some fun and amazing drinks when we come back. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Main Street Living. Well, this summer, many of us have a newfound appreciation for the simple pleasure of enjoying a drink in person or with friends or here virtually. And to make plans and entertain guests this summer, there are never too many options for delicious, convenient drinks. Right, Danielle?
Absolutely. And we had to bring in distiller and mixologist Jeff Longnecker from Seven Cave Spirits to give us some ideas for whipping up a perfect summer beverage. Jeff, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you again.
It's great to see you guys too. I really appreciate you having me back on and talking about cocktails in the summertime. It's my favorite time of year to make cocktails here in San Diego.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because that's the only time of year that San Diego has good weather is the good thing. But summertime in general across the country, perfect time to enjoy a beverage with friends and family. What are some of the cocktail trends that you're seeing this summer?
Well, it's funny. When we deal with cocktails in our world, we see a lot of tropical drinks in the summertime. We see things like mojitos, we see Mai Tais, which we're going to make today. We'll see painkillers, stuff with delicious fresh fruits, lots of good citrus, and real sugars. And it's fun to make these cocktails in a different way than maybe you've had them in the past. People know pina coladas is something that can be overly sweet. It's fun to make it less sweet, maybe add a different rum that brings more complexity to it. And it's such an interesting way to approach a potentially familiar cocktail, but make it delicious and unique. So
I'm always looking to mix it up in a different way and make it fun and unique and kind of surprise the guests. And does Seven Caves have any seasonal offerings right now that might provide that inspiration for a summer drink? I know you said you're going to make a fun Mai Tai.
well, of course we do. One of the fun things that we're doing at the shop right now is I just released a banana rum, and banana rum is a very unique rum to the market. It's actually distilled with fresh bananas on my vacuum still. We use almost 100 pounds of bananas that goes into our batches of rum, and it's fresh bananas. That's where all the flavor comes from. I'm pretty sure it's the only the only rum in the world using actual bananas. So that's a really fun one. It's fun to use in pina coladas and daiquiris because it just brings a really unique flavor to those cocktails, and it's freaking awesome.
I'll take it.
Our canned cocktails are really, really popular this time of year. We have 3. Saturn is a pineapple passion fruit gin cocktail, and then we have Fancy Poolside Punch, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Yum.
Fancy poolside punch. That's what I need. Well, I know that you mentioned a summertime classic, the Mai Tai. Are you going to show us how to make this one today?
Absolutely. So Mai Tai has a fascinating history. It's a cocktail that was originated, well, there's always controversy when it comes to tropical cocktails, but around 1944. And the one that I'm doing is straight out of Trader Vic's back in the day. So this is a 1944 Mai Tai, which is, believe it or not, there's controversy over these statements, but 1944 Mai Tai is as simple as it gets. It showcases rum. So we're going to start with the Seven Caves barrel aged. This is a 4-year-old barrel aged rum. Always starts with a dark rum. And then we're going to go to a Jamaican style overproof. This is a molasses only rum, 126 proof, so a nice pick me up in the afternoon.
Wow.
Quite strong. Then we add a little dry curacao. Dry curacao is similar to Cointreau or triple sec, which you may know is going into things like Mai Tais. Now we start getting into a little bit more different ingredients. Well, I mean, lemon or lime juice is a classic. So a full ounce of lime juice directly into our shaker here. Then we're going to use a touch of orgeat. Orgeat is an almond simple syrup. It's common in a lot of bar supply. You'll see it at your local larger retail liquor stores. It's a great ingredient when using making tropical drinks. Anything that you add orgeat to will just give it this nice sort of nutty, almondy flavor. It's quite delicious. And then for mine, I like to add just a dash of Angostura bitters. It's just a classic tropical bitter. Put all of that. This is why I kind of like making Mai Tais too. All of this goes directly into our little shaker. We add it together. There's already some ice in here. We give it a quick little shake. Doesn't have to be a long time. All we're doing is blending it nice and flash style, breaking our little seal on our blender, and then no straining or anything. Just grab our little mug. I put the spent lime from the lime juice directly in. Okay. Then just a touch. Mai Tais are typically garnished with a little mint. We don't want to overly mess up our mint. We don't want to muddle it or anything like that. So we're just going to add that directly into our cocktail. Add a straw.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Summertime sipper.
I'm kind of jealous right now. You're drinking without us. You're drinking alone. What does that say?
Hey, I'm a distiller. What more can I say? It's my job. It's a tough job.
So I'm curious, if I wanted to have a big party, could you make a big batch of this?
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this particular recipe. You can buy all the ingredients, you can batch it up. The ratios that we put into our website, or into the recipe that we post, those can all be scaled. So if we say 1 ounce of one rum, you can put a bottle, you can put a cup, you can put a quart, you can put a gallon. And yeah, of course you can scale it up and then have everything batched ahead of time, shake and go. And then it's very, very, very easy. So.
That's incredible. I mean, it's funny to me to even imagine to have that many friends to have to make that big of a punch bowl for. But before we let you go, we want to let viewers know where they can find out more about Seven Cave Spirits. And I also want to let them know that even if you're not an alcohol drinker, my favorite thing is the maple syrup. I bought 2 last Christmas so that they could last me, until next Christmas, or I'm probably going to run out before then, and then I'll be craving it just in time for Christmas. So the maple syrup's incredible, and I'm sure you can put that into cocktails as well. So where can viewers find more information?
So my website, you can actually buy the maple syrup on my website. I appreciate that. That maple syrup comes from these rum barrels, by the way. As soon as we dump those rum barrels, we fill them with maple. But yeah, on my website. And then if you want to learn more about all the different things Seven Caves does and what I'm up to, Instagram, Seven Caves is a great follow. So.
All right.
We have all of our recipes online. We have all kinds of tropical summertime drinks. So just check them out. You'll see summer classics. You'll see punches. You'll see all my recipes for poolside punch and all that fun stuff.
I'm going to do that. We always need some inspiration to make some new drinks. Thanks so much for joining us again here on Main Street Living. You're always a treat.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you guys.
Cheryl, do you think I can have a Mai Tai with my waffles? Because this syrup, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, for sure.
Well, we've got our drinks under control now. So coming up, let's take a look at a classic New England snack, more of a delicacy, if you ask me. Welcome back into Main Street Living, Cheryl. As you know, in our last segment, we learned how to make a legit Mai Tai for our next summer get-together. But we're going to need snacks to go along with that.
That's right. And Chef Nick Raybar shares another one of his standout recipes for a delicious summer snack and a New England classic. You're going to love this, Danielle. It's lobster rolls. Check it out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keep On Cooking. And today we're making the official summer dish of New England. And that is, yep, you guessed it, the lobster roll. There's no question this classic rules the season. The only real question is mayo or butter. Today we're using my personal favorite, and that's butter, so let's get started. While the main attraction might be the lobster, we've got to get going with some melted butter. So I've got some whole salted butter here, and I'm just going to go into the pan and let that get going. So simple but critical step, you don't want to let the butter burn. Otherwise it's going to add a little nuttiness to it, which we really don't want on this dish. You want to pay attention. That way it just melts and stays nice and milky and buttery. So that is nice and melted, and again, not brown. Let's go in with some shallots, because we've got to lightly cook those. And now we'll go in with some chopped celery. Now these are the only two things that are going to be cooked here, because the lobster is totally pre-cooked. We want to put that in at the last minute so it doesn't get chewy and overcooked. So we'll just let this go, slow simmer, 2-3 minutes. And now we're going to go in with our beautifully cooked lobster. And look at that. Come on, that's not even fair. I love to keep the lobster in very large chunks. That's going to prevent it from getting too dry in the butter. Now we're just going to mix this up and baste all of that delicious, tender, large chunks pieces of fresh Rhode Island lobster. If you called it a day right there, that's it, you're good, you're done. If you did nothing but lobster and butter, that's it, you're good, you're done. But of course, this is Keep On Cooking, so we gotta add a few little things. I'm gonna start by putting in some fresh squeezed lemon. That is gonna brighten this butter up, add some fabulous acidity, and a must-have, in my opinion, with lobster rolls. And now we're gonna put in some fresh herbs. I love fresh herbs. They wake food up in such special ways, especially when you're using these two. I'm gonna start with some tarragon, and then I'm gonna put in some fresh chopped chive, which are two fabulous flavors of the summer. And last but certainly not least, we're gonna go in with some Old Bay. Old Bay is something I love to cook with. It's a lot of spices in one, but predominantly it's celery salt and salt itself. So notice I didn't add any actual salt to the dish. The Old Bay is gonna take care of that, and so will the natural salt from the lobster. Now it's time for the final stir. Let's put all of that together, and this lobster has soaked in the flavors of the Old Bay, of the butter, of the lemon, of the herbs, of the lobster itself, and it is just oozing with summer aroma. All right, so that's lobster, but it's not a lobster roll without this. This is a griddled brioche bun that I put a little bit of bib lettuce in. and I am just going to load the heck out of these things. Overflowing with buttery, herby, lemony, Old Bay poached lobster, which is a lot to say, but a ton of fun to eat. And since we're not counting the calories today, how about a little bit more butter just to finish it off? And that is our buttered New England lobster roll. Well, I hope you guys make that at home because I'm taking this one to go. Thanks for joining me as always, and until we meet again, you keep on cooking.
Oh no, Cheryl, I know you are a resident vegan, so I know this is not your thing, but this is so my thing. I love lobster rolls, and I actually was in Vegas not but a week ago, and I got one, and I thought, how do I make this at home? And my question has been answered, so I'm so excited for the opportunity now. And you can find more about Nick's restaurant on their website, avenueandamericankitchen.com, and find more cooking videos with Nick on their Your View YouTube channel.
I know you're loving that. And before we go, mayo or butter?
Butter.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd pick butter as well if I ate that. So, all right. Well, don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more coming up on Main Street Living. We're going to tell you about the other type of golf. Guys, I didn't know about this, so you'll want to stay tuned. Welcome back to Main Street Living. It is the ladies' show today. And Danielle, we all know how important it is to stay active. And if you're looking for a hobby that provides a physical and mental workout, is inexpensive, and something you can do throughout your life, you have really narrowed down your options.
That's right. And most importantly, it has to also be fun so that you'll actually keep doing it. And disc golf may be your ace in the hole or in the basket, as the case may be.
Disc golf exploded in the last year because of the pandemic. Everybody wanted to be outside and kind of play a sport and be active. One of my high school friends showed me disc golf. I had no idea what it was, and first time I went disc golfing, I saw a hole-in-one, also known as an ace, and ever since I saw that, I was like, I want to do that. Then 3 or 4 months later, it happened to me. Then ever since that, I've been hooked.
I would go ahead and bet that Kester probably did, as Castro has long range.
Oh, wow. Wait a minute.
When I say I'm a professional disc golfer, they're like, what? Wait, what? Then I say a professional frisbee golfer, and they're like, oh, I know what that is. So when people say disc, they think of like a CD or whatever. Then you say frisbee, and they think of an actual frisbee. So in traditional golf, you have your irons, you have your woods, you have your putters, you have your hybrids. Same thing for disc golf. You got your putters, you got your mid-range, your fairways, and your drivers. The drivers are going to be a little bit thinner to cut through the wind. The fairways are going to be a little bit slower, which is a little bit thicker. The mid-range thicker, and the putters are going to be a little bit thicker as well. Everything has a purpose. If I handed you a disc right now, you had no idea what it does because they look the same, but realistically, as you throw them, they're going to go different shot shapes and areas for it. Just like ball golf, traditional golf, you have to putt. Disc golf, same way. I am using a putter, a little bit thicker, and it's a little bit slower, so it's going to not fight through the wind as much. It's definitely worth playing, and it's a good exercise. My first summer, I lost 100 pounds playing disc golf. It wasn't even the goal, the plan. I just was addicted, and lots of walking and exercise. And definitely invite all you guys watching this to go pick up discs anywhere. I think you'll be hooked by the flight just like I did right away.
Danielle, I hate to admit it, but I think I've been living under a rock because I did not know about disc golf. It looks really
At
fun.
all?
I know. And I looked up where it is, and there's courses all around me. Have you played it?
I have played it, and it's funny because I was watching this video, and the first thing I thought was Cheryl would be good at this game. I think you would be able to get an ace.
I'm gonna have to try it. I gotta ask my dad if he knows about it too, because he loves regular golf. I think he would love this. And if you or anyone you know would want to try this, you can find out everything you need to know about disc golf and where to play at the Professional Disc Golf Association's website, pdga.com.
We need to take a break so we can sign Cheryl up for one of these leagues, but we'll be back straight ahead with more Main Street Living. Welcome back in one last time to Main Street Living. Cheryl, we of course missed Quincy today, but another great show in the books. And as always, if you miss any of our shows, you can always catch up on our Cox Contour app. Just download that and you can find all the shows.
Absolutely. Fun show today. Love it when we make up some drinks and have some food recipes. And as always, you can catch brand new episodes of Main Street Living Mondays at 9 p.m. local time. So make sure you join us then as we take another stroll down Main Street.